There is a castle on a cloud. We've been inside for many days. We entertain in many ways. Up in a castle on a cloud. There is a sorcerer called Greg. Over the edge he dangles leg, engrossed in a book he does not spy. Vultures and riders swooping by, they enter though they were not bid. Strangers stride forth are now amid. Arrogance assured, they venture proud up in the castle on a cloud. So rude, so brusque, but what do they require? Who are these flying foes in dice and desire?
Have we got trouble here, lads? Talking to the human.
The one at the front looks at you and says,
just imagine that I am just poking my head through, just head through some curtains.
He looks at you, and so he sees this green head poking through and says, I hope for your sake there's no trouble.
Right. I push the curtains shut and go. I just gesture to everyone. Everyone's probably having a peek, right? Everyone's sort of. I've got everyone's sort of attention at this point inside, and I just sort of.
Quint's just twiddling his thumbs.
Anyone looking in my direction?
I'll have noticed you go over. I'll have stood up, but I wouldn't have moved anywhere.
Still behind the curtains, I just do a beckoning wave without saying anything. You guys can choose how you respond to that.
I'm going to move and stand and bring Vin with me and just stand sort of slightly around the corner from the curtain, but ready.
Dweezil just jumps down from the table.
Quinch is noticing the action now, and you guys right?
While you're all doing that, the man at the front has continued walking into the castle, and almost ignoring where Krill poked his head through, literally walked through the side of the curtain and into the room, essentially ignoring him. The woman has remained in the foyer, the entrance hall to the castle, so that she can essentially be close to the advancing male, but also close to the rest of the group.
Can Quinch quickly fly up to see where Zaphros is?
Zaphros, is this the name that you get right all the time?
Sorry, Zaphiros.
You can, but I will remind you that the ceiling is about 100 foot high, so it's going to take you a few sort of quote-unquote turns to get there.
Just shout at it.
So as he walks in, you start heading your way up towards the ceiling. The man walks in, and you see that he's he's armoured, but not like heavily armoured or anything like that. He looks he's slightly ornately dressed, but not too much so. He's sort of thuggish in appearance, but again, not too much so. He's sort of, he looks dangerous. He doesn't look like a particularly nice fella. But there's something a little bit more, the guy's come in on a giant, riding a giant vulture. This is not just some sort of like common petty thief or anything quite so bad as that. But he certainly he doesn't look a particularly nice guy. Let's put it that way.
How old would you say he looked?
He's probably like he's probably sort of late 30s, I'd guess. As he walks in, he sort of looks at the castle. He's just like taking everything in. He's basically looking at it as if he owns a place, essentially. And he's just taking in everything. He's staring at the statues. He's staring at the giant furniture. He's looking at all of you, and you can see him doing some sort of mental arithmetic in his head. Like, he looks from, as he walks in, the first person who's directly in line of sight is Dweezil. looks at him, sort of quite a cold, blank stare. Heads moves round, sees Quinch fiddling with a cube of many colours. Spins round, sees Krill, who at this stage probably still has his head poked between the curtains. Gets further round and gets to Dabov and Vin, and he sort of goes, "Just all of you."
At this stage, Dweezil coughs to get the man's attention and makes a gesture to the man, pointing to his eyes, as if to suggest, "Don't look around the room, look at me." And Dweezil will say to him, "Excuse me, sir. You appear to have found yourself in a place in which you were not invited. My name is Dweezil Vanzaphir. May I ask you for your name?"
He looks you dead in the eyes, and then, not talking to you, he just goes, "Envon, we've got another talker." And he looks back at you.
Sticking my head through the curtains, I go, "Are you Envon?"
And as you poke your head through the curtains, you see the woman just go in, like smirking and go, just like, "Oh, here we go." Sort of that sort of like, "Oh, we're in trouble here."
"Sir, I may be a talker, but your intellect is paltry. Your strength is feeble too. Your odour is repugnant. I mock, sir. I mock you." He's not insulting me like that. Not throwing around insults, calling me a talker without getting one back at him as I cast the vicious mockery cantrip on him.
Proved him wrong, didn't you?
Man accuses me of talking, so I talk.
So what does that do? What do I do with that?
Wisdom saving throw.
Wisdom saving throw. Okie dokie. 11.
Okay. He's just 1 point of psychic damage. Just stings him a little bit.
Does he know he's been attacked, or does he just feel?
Yeah,
welcome?
of course he does. I mean, he's just taken a point of that. Like you sort of feel someone probing you somewhat with magic, and you take sort of a very small blast, and he sort of like winces,
Yeah.
and then he looks back at you and he goes, "Was that you?"
Dweezil, as if to mock the man further, after calling him a talker, simply shrugs his shoulders at him.
Right. Cool. Is the big one here?
I'm here.
Looks at you. The big one.
I don't know who you're referring to.
Maybe he's talking about Vin, Krill.
Vin, correct. Vin is here
Right.
for you.
Finn just rears up on his hind legs and waves.
Awesome. So we've got a bunch of jokers and a talker. "Giant, come out. Where are you?" he shouts.
Pardon?
Giant come.
Yeah.
Is that a spell?
So you could simply tell us your name, as we requested.
Are you a giant?
Am I a giant? I'm a giant of words.
Are you a giant?
I am.
Do you own this castle? Do you fly this castle?
Do you? Does any man truly own a castle?
Consider we've not seen the vultures yet. How did you get up here?
I flew.
On your
How
own?
did you get up here?
We asked him. He landed. It was nice of him.
You asked who?
The castle.
Vin.
Finn.
Can you please roll me a deception check, please?
Dabble for saying the castle, or me for saying Vin?
You for saying Vin.
What is it? Deception. Unnatural 20.
Unnatural 20. So the giant's name is Vin.
No.
Vin.
The weasel's
Vin, come out.
The weasel's name is Vin.
I'm losing patience.
Can
with
Greg
all of
make
you.
his way back in? Is that
He's just been stood outside next to a giant vulture for like 20 minutes.
Yes, you can try and so you walk in, and as you obviously get to the hallway leading into the castle, you obviously see the human woman stood there, sort of back against the wall, sort of looking very nonchalantly like this woman looks pretty fucking cool right now. She thinks like she owns the place, so as you enter, you see her.
I give her a
and the curtain's
little
drawn.
wolf whistle and just continue walking.
Old perv.
She at the wolf whistle, she reaches her hand down and
Oh, she did like it.
She's into it.
she just gently rests it against her dagger and sort of like taps her fingers against it as if to sort of say, "Be careful, Sonny Jim."
Do it again. I didn't see this, but do it again.
So Greg's now in the room with the rest of you.
Yeah.
The guy that stood in the room with the rest of you and says, "I'm here to speak to the giant. I have no quibble with the rest of you. You are starting to test my patience. However, I simply wish to speak to the giant about some business."
What giant is he referring to? Is it Krill or Quench that he wants to speak to? I'm confused.
Would you like me to go and get the giant who owns this castle?
Where are you at this point? You're still flying up. Are you?
I'm midway in the room.
Hovering above.
He looks up, seeing you, and sort of like throws you a sarcastic like thumbs up, just like, yeah.
I'll just nip upstairs and see if he's up there.
Can I
Okay.
send Vin out to the lady that's... Because I assume we know, considering he addressed her directly, that we know there's a woman by the door. Can I send Vin to go out and annoy her?
Wolf whistle at her. That seems to annoy her.
I'm thinking scurry all over her and then run back in to try and lure her into the room. Just so we can get
You
her
can do that.
inside the curtain and into the room.
Okay. So what are you doing then? He's going to...
I'm going to get... Yeah,
Scurry
Vin's
around
just
her.
going to run out through the curtain, basically climb all over her, and then run back in to try and lure her in.
Can you give me an intimidation check then, please? From Vin's perspective.
His stats don't get that specific. I've just got the strength, dex, con,
So intimidation, I think, would be...
Charisma.
charisma. Oh, that's
Here we
not
go,
great.
some
That's
Vintimidation.
not great. 4.
4. So he scurries all over her, and at first you can probably like your overconfidence that your familiar weasel can do something against this person that you've not even seen yourself yet. He starts scurrying around her. He gets about halfway up, and she just grabs him and holds him. Not unpleasantly, not like to hurt him or anything like that, but just like lifts him off of her, and then sort of like just places him on her shoulder.
Would he not try to
God.
get off of her shoulder now? Like, I don't get what that would achieve.
No, she owns him now.
Yeah.
Vin's hers.
I mean, I can literally just uncast
She's
him at
just-
any point.
she's just asserting dominance on Vin of like sort of saying basically like, yeah, just get off
Can I get Vin to come running
without
back?
wanting to.
If
If you want him to come running back,
I'll bring him back. Or actually,
comes
can
running
I stick
back.
my head out the curtain and say, "Can I have that back?" He's a bit of a scamp. That one. Can you bring him over here, please?
And she looks at you and just raises her eyes of, yeah, whatever.
So is she bringing the weasel to me?
No. Why would she bring the
Because I
weasel
asked
to
her
you?
to. I said, "Oh, could you bring it to me, please?" I asked nicely. I'm not being confrontational.
She okay then. In which case, then she sort of raises her arm, giving Vin the opportunity to run down her arm and jump back through.
Dabov just being a bit confused by, we'll just go to her and just grab Vin himself. I don't want to allude to the fact that I can control Vin in any way. But while I'm there, I'm going to say, when you step in, we can all have a chat like, normal human beings and gnomes. I have no desire to have a conflict, so why don't you come in, make yourself comfortable, we'll make you a cup of coffee, and we can all have a nice chat.
I'll come in when I'm ready to come in.
Okay, we'll have the kettle ready for you, and I'll just head back in with Vin.
I was just going to say, I'm obviously next to Krill right now, so could Greg just kind of lean over and whisper to him and go, "Just to let you know, there's at least another 6 of them outside."
Anything to that, Krill?
That's how many.
Good roleplay.
That's how many.
1 hand plus 1, and that's only of what I could see from my location. There may be more.
So they all had 1 hand. That will help if we have to fight them.
Also, there's some big birds out there you may want to go speak to.
Don't do the joke.
So while this is going on, the guy in the middle of the room is just sort of eyeballing Dweezil at this point, like not to the point that he wants to start. He's not trying to start anything.
I am trying to wind him up though. I keep going.
But equally, he's basically showing Dweezil that he's not intimidated by Dweezil's attempt to intimidate him, and he's just going to just sort of stand there, like I say, balling him. Quinch, by this time you're up in the up in Zaphiros's room. Zaphiros is basically Sparko at the moment, asleep.
Okay, so I approach the bed.
Yep.
And is he under the covers?
Yeah.
Okay, so Quinch looks a little bit nervous. He's like, and he's wondering how to wake him up, and he's looking at the sort of different folds of the cloth, and he's like, and he goes for what he believes is Zaphiros's leg, and he starts rubbing the leg up and down to wake him up.
Can I have a sleight of hand, please?
Yes. 8.
8. You start rubbing. You're rubbing for quite a while, and it takes about 20 or 30 seconds before you realise that you're actually just rubbing a fold in the blanket. You're not actually touching Zaphiros at all.
Okay, I'm realising that I'm being silly. Quinch floats up to his head and gently rubs his cheek and says, Zaphiros, can you please awaken from your slumber?
What are you literally just you whispering in his ear? Or
yeah, whispering like next to his face and rubbing his cheek.
You're caressing his cheek and just whispering in his ear. Nice.
Can I have a performance roll from you then, please?
Yes, this is a -1. 11.
11. Your attempts to wake Zaphiros are successful. You do manage to wake him. He's not necessarily the heaviest of sleepers, despite the fact that he's a heavy sleeper. And he awakes with a slight, alarm, because obviously he's not expecting anyone to wake him. And he sort of just turns to you and Quinch, what is the problem?
So there's this bloke downstairs. He's got a hood, and he said he'd like to speak to. Well, he said the owner of the castle. He seems like quite disgruntled, a little bit confrontational. I don't know if you know who he might be, but yeah, they're asking to see you.
This is unexpected. Please, would you descend and tell him that Zaphiros will be with him in a moment?
I can, yeah. What's in that chest you've got over there?
This is my personal things, and this is... I do not believe that this is the moment to be discussing my wealth and my
Oh, so there's money in there. I was just because they seem quite confrontational. Obviously, if it turns south, then
no, we are heading north.
No, sorry. I mean, if the situation becomes more desperate.
Oh yes,
There's nothing in the chest that I could use.
Yes, it is. Yes, as they are saying, It is when the giraffe licks its own ears, yes.
I understand completely. I'll go and tell them.
Yeah.
Quinch descends.
So you fly back down towards leaving Zaphiros to basically get ready. He sleeps very naked. And so you head back down to the lower ground floor. Lower ground floor, just the same one. The ground floor.
Hello.
Hello.
What's your name again?
Does it matter? Are you a giant?
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just being polite. So I've just spoken to Zaphiros. He is the person who owns this castle. I've told him you're here. And you're not going to tell me your name, is that?
It's his secretary.
Didn't say I wouldn't tell you my name. I just said it didn't really matter. But if you're incommunicado with the person who owns this castle, my name is Amarath.
When Amarath says communicado, Quinch turns to Dweezil and looks a bit confused.
I say it's like a dressing gown, Quinch.
Right. So sorry, your name is. I'm quite bad with names. Say that again, and I'll remember it more clearly now.
No.
Okay, Amaranos, I think it was.
Amaretto, Quinch.
Amaretto. Okay, right. Amaretto. Zaphiros will be down momentarily. He's just putting a robe on.
The communicado.
The communicado.
And he looks at you and nods, and then looks back at Dweezil and gives him a look of, was that so fucking hard?
Dweezil just continues to do what he's been doing for the last 5 minutes, which is to try and infuriate Amarath by just raising his eyebrows at him and like nodding and like smiling, like being a bit of a psychopath.
Can I use a cantrip to send a message to Dweezil, a psychic message?
Stop being a bellend.
Oh, no, quite the opposite. I want to say to Dweezil, in case it was, he might not already know, but there's a woman at the door, watching the door. If you can enrage this man to the point that she comes in, I've got a plan. So keep it up, is all I'm going to say. Like, get them both in, distract them both, and I'll see what I can do from where I am.
Krill puts his head through the curtains and just says to the woman, "I think your boyfriend's getting a bit upset. He doesn't look very happy."
Why do you think he's my boyfriend?
I don't know. He looks like the weak type. Needs a nice strong woman to dominate him. You look like a strong woman.
Can you roll me a persuasion?
I like how I said this to Dweezil and Krill's doing it.
Well,
there was just a vibe about you. Like, I was like, I know what he wants. It was that night when we were spooning. I feel like I could read you like a book. 12.
12. She looks at you and says, Amarath can handle himself.
There's two of them. Quinch.
Would Dweezil have heard her say that Amarath can handle himself?
You probably wouldn't have been able to hear the exact words, but
okay.
I turn to the group and say, apparently Amarath can handle himself.
Not metagaming.
So we have a talker here, do we? And we have a wanker, Amarath, apparently. Is that right? That you handle yourself? Is that, I mean, this is the word on the, well, I was going to say the word on the street, but the word on the cloud. The word on the cloud might be more accurate. That you are unable to, that's right, Krill, that he's unable to please his woman because he expends all his seed through the hand.
That's exactly her words. She said exactly that.
Sir, and those words are intended to be unsettling words, to kind of put him off his.
She also said he vigorously masturbates in public.
He will take 5 off his next saving throw.
Oh, do you not even have to roll for that?
No, it's like it works like bardic inspiration, but
Right,
negative, only on saving throws.
Apparently he buggers vultures.
Oh, right in the cloaca.
It's an interesting word.
Amarath looks at you and says, I know what you're trying to do. It won't work. Giant, where are you? He sort of says to the room. And with that, almost as if he's being called, you see the now dressed, slightly dishevelled because he's been woken from his slumber, Zaphiros floating down and joining the room. And he looks to Quinch, because obviously Quinch is the one that woke him, and says, "Is this a gentleman?"
So before hearing the concerning sexploitations of Amarath, Quinch was about to show him his potato that looks like a bum. So he's got his potato that looks like a bum in his hand, and so he holds out his hand and points using the potato, and he says, "Yeah, that's the guy. I think Amarath or something." And then he pops his potato away.
Zaphiros, with his 24 foot of height, looks down upon Amarath and says, "Excuse me, my name is Zaphiros. I am Zaphiros."
Don't shake his hand. He's a vigorous masturbator.
So, everyone has to enjoy themselves in whatever ways they are finding, as long as it is consensual with yes.
With the hand. Have to ask permission from the
my
hand.
name is Zaphiros. I am the owner and the pilot, if you will, of this castle. These are my guests. However, I do not recognize you. May I have your name? Amarath looks at him and says, "My name is Amarath. I'm here by my employer, and I'm willing to offer you gold and riches to assist us." Obviously, very badly worded, given that you just called him a wanker, but there you go. As a initial peace offering, we wish to provide you with something to assist you in your ways. And he sort of lets out a little whistle, and you hear a second little whistle from behind the curtain. And then a few seconds later, Envon walks into the room and hands something to Amarath. Amarath walks over to Zaphiros and says, "Please, as a gift of our goodwill, my employers would like to offer you this pouch of magical components, which I understand would be of use to you as a user of magic, if you would but consider my employer's offer." Zaphiros looks at Amarath, takes the pouch and says, This is most kind. I was worried that you would be here under some sort of dangerous pretense, that you would be attacking Zaphiros and my guests. And I was, worried that something awful would happen, especially when Quinch was waking me from my slumber. And Quinch, is this gentleman the one that you were saying was antagonistic?
Yeah, he was being a little bit feisty a minute ago.
While all this is going on, I assume the two strangers are focusing on the giant. Very much so. Am I right in assuming that? Facing away from Dabov?
Basically they've both got their back to
Can
you.
I
currently.
sneak out?
Attack.
No. To the door. And you said that the door handles are rings, aren't they?
That's correct.
And the door opens outwards?
That's correct, yes.
So if I pull the rings towards me and jam the immovable rod through it and activate it, would that form a decent barricade?
It would.
Assuming
yes.
I can sneak out of the room.
Is the castle not moving?
It is actually. That's a very good point. Thank you very much, Joe. I love that you're all. I love that you're all working against yourselves. That's absolutely great.
In that case, noticing that as soon as I turn it on, it starts moving. can I use some of my rope to tie the two handles together?
What you could do, though, is you could still probably do the same, but without activating the rod.
I imagine it'd just slip out between the rings, though. I was thinking more literally pulling them as tight as I can, then jamming the rod. But I'll just use rope.
Yeah,
I'll tie the two
rope.
door handles together. I've got some
works,
rope. I'll do that.
If not, you could always borrow some ribbon.
No, I'll tie the two door handles together, thus preventing anyone from outside getting in, because Greg said that there's people outside. If that's all right, if I can do that.
Okie dokie. So first of all, let's do your stealth. That you getting out of the room without being noticed. So if you could do me a stealth check, please.
Stealth.
It's worth mentioning I am just, well, all the time that he's talking to Zaphiros, I am just slowly standing there doing a hand gesture to him, still trying to antagonise him.
Okay.
Does that gain me any sort of advantage?
No, that doesn't.
Well, anyway, I got 19. So
19. Yeah, you managed to slip out without their notice. They both of them are very much eyes on Zaphiros at this point. So that's you. You've got out of the room with nobody noticing. And the next thing you want to do was to tie
some rope between the two door hooks, or whatever you call them, rings.
Okay, sleight of hand to see whether you tie a sufficiently stable enough knot to keep the doors shut against any barrage.
Nice. I've rolled a 12. What is my sleight of hand? +7, so that's 17.
That's 7, 19.
Nope, 19 again, sorry.
Yeah. So again, you managed to tie a pretty decent. You managed to tie a pretty decent knot. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the strongest knot, and it's definitely potentially breakable. But at the same time, it's certainly going to cause some difficulty getting in.
Cool.
I mean, did the door not look like it has some kind of barricade anyway? Or is it just a door that would just have always swung
I can't
open?
imagine he's got much use to lock it, with it being up on a massive cloud.
Yeah, it's not like 9
But,
giant.
I mean, if I could
land on
check it
your
for a
doorstep
lock,
every day.
that'd be good, I suppose.
Well, you've done it now.
Yeah.
You've tied it up.
And I will sneak back to my original position and look towards Dweezil with a wink, as if to say, "Job done."
Okay. So back to role playing with myself that Sam wanted to point out in the chat. Can't help it if the story gives me two characters that need to talk to each other directly. So Amareth says he says to Zaphiros, with his offering, I would like you to consider joining forces with my employer to help provide protection and to help us ensure a better world. Zaphiros looks at Amarath and says, "Who is it you are representing? You have not said. You keep saying employer. Who is this?" "I am unwilling to say. However, I am given to understand that cloud giants have a way of knowing these things." Zaphiros looks to Dweezil and notices for the first time that you're giving him the look and says, "Dweezil, you are doing the hand gestures that I'm not thinking is complimentary, yeah?"
Yeah.
You're antagonising the giant now as well. He's just on one, isn't he?
You are not a fan of this man?
I just think this man is arrogant, and coming from Dweezil Vanzaphir, that is saying something. He entered your castle without invitation. He refused to tell me his name. He was antagonistic towards me. We are your friends. We were merely wanting to protect you and protect your home. And this man strode in here uninvited and rude.
And he hasn't stopped masturbating since he's been here.
Yeah, and the stain down the front of his trousers suggests. I haven't seen such a stain since Quinch visited the priest in Nightstone.
Zaphiros looks and takes us all on board and says, "Thank you, Dweezil. Your words as ever sage." Looks back at Amarath and says, I've been riding with these people for 5 days now, and they have been pleasant and kind to me, and I take their word for a lot of weight, and I wish to ponder on this, if that is okay. Amareth says, please take your time. We're in no rush, as long as you grant us the hospitality of being inside your castle and assure that no harm will come to us. This is something that I can promise, yes. And he looks to the rest of you and says, please do not... Until I have pondered on this offer, could you please not antagonize or bring any harm upon these guests of mine?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Dice and Desire. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave us a review. Also, go check out our Instagram and Twitter pages. The handle for both is Dice and Desire. So, until next time, stay safe, adventurers.
Are you looking for a D&D podcast with a dark side? Something more like Game of Thrones and less like Monty Python? Tale of the Manticore is part dark fantasy audio drama, part solo D&D RPG. There's no plot armor here. The dice make all the important decisions. Join me as I resurrect the excitement, wonder, and emotion of old school D&D. Made for a mature audience, Tale of the Manticore is both a fiction and a game. It's the story where chaos rolls.